Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the synthesis session for the third day. My name is Bloch. I'm at CFA. Conference is now drawing to a close. We hope you've enjoyed the sessions and have found it useful. Thank everybody for participating. In this last session we'll have some reflections on some of the sessions for today. Caroline Wagner unfortunately couldn't be with us for this last session, but we have Ted Van Nieuwen, who will be providing some reflections on the sessions, along with Alexandr Hobza, who is chief economist and head of unit for the Common R&I Strategy and Foresight Service at the European Commission. So the two of them will both give their reflections on the sessions of the day, and then after that, Ted, as chair of ANIT, will say a few closing remarks, and then we'll give the word forward to Enrique Herrera-Viedma, who is vice rector for research and transfer at the University of Granada. So he'll have a short presentation there in talking about STI next year. Great. I'll give the word over to Ted. Please, Ted, what were your reflections on the day?
Thank you very much, Carter. This has been a very interesting day again. I liked it a lot. Interesting thread through the whole day was actually the problematization of research metrics, which started off with Sarah's keynote, and it went on in the discussion about advanced bibliometrics, and also was key in the discussion about to what extent metrics do fit science policy. And Sarah started off by this problematization by actually triangulating around the responsible research assessments, the position of universities and funders, funding systems, and the scholarly communication systems. And she was talking about the experiment in the Netherlands around reward and recognition system. It was an interesting situation where she said that top researchers in the Netherlands were actually advocating a more pluralist perspective from a university level to say also take on board narratives and metrics, while for funding they would still remain close to metrics only. So here you see how in this triangle, funders, scholars at universities, and the scholarly system is playing the role of say being decisive when it comes to researchers. And it's also interesting to hear Sarah say, which of course I fully support, is that we have to constantly consider ourselves in this complex situation with respect to responsible research assessments. In the second session, Ellen and Lute talked about advanced bibliometrics, and actually Ellen mixed technometrics and bibliometrics together. He was talking about emerging topics, and actually by giving a couple of examples of where emergent topics in some scholarly domains actually led to higher citation impacts. He then took it to the COVID-19 field, analyzed it by looking at he was looking at ontology, so taking a topical analysis approach first, looking at ontologies and natural language, and he clearly identified that by following the same methodology as he did in previous studies for COVID-19, that you could signal growth. It's also interesting to see how this particular approach relates to research metrics, but it's also a clear challenge for scientometrics in general. Lute started off his lecture by giving an overview of all kinds of bibliometric statistics, whereby he distinguished between people using these statistics in, say, mode 1 and mode 2, whereby, at least as I understood him, mode 1 is more theory-inspired, whereas mode 2 is more practice-inspired. This was interesting. So that was a nice perspective. I hope I interpreted that properly. And also he gave an overview of all kind of bibliometric indicators. And by that, he kind of discussed what we call, or what's called the Dutch Citation Awards, coined as such by Scandinavian scholars in our field, by going back in time and discussing all of this. He extensively talked about I3, the indicator he launched in Durban, South Africa at the STI2021 conference. And this was a really interesting exposure. Then the final session, which was moderated by Sibylle Hinze, we had a number of speakers, and they were really interesting because it started off with the interaction between bibliometricians or research metric producers and policymakers, taking it from a demand and supply model. And in that whole model, there is foreseen to be a role for intermediaries who could translate between the two actors, bibliometricians and policymakers. Some of the conclusions, for example, by Gunnar Sivertsen, was that metrics can be very helpful, but only when they are used in a sensible and skilled manner. I think more people took this approach, although Koen Jonkers took a little bit of more critical perspective on the role and function of research metrics, because these tend to undervalue other scholarly activities such as teaching and impact. I think overall we could say that communication dialogue was considered important between the interaction between research metrics producers and science policymakers. So translation in the demand and supply was needed. Another thing that was mentioned is a frequent contact between these two actors in the science system, because it helps in getting familiarized with the research metrics on the policy dimension. That was particularly underlined by Jon Holm. Training of policy making was also advocated as a part of improving the relationship between policy making and research metrics producers. And finally, we came to the conclusion underlined by several, by Uwe, by Jon, that the co-creation of that supply and demand, to what extent are problems and questions being translated to answers, to what extent that can be done in co-creational situations. And with that, I would like to conclude. It's been a very interesting day today with very interesting contributions. Thank you very much. And with that, I would like to give the floor to Alexander.
Good afternoon. I've attended the remaining two panels on which I would like to report to you, both extremely interesting and rich in terms of takeaways. I mean, first one on organizational identifiers, registers, and also the implications for STI indicators was populated with a number of great speakers who are actually practitioners and do work directly with these registers and are very familiar with all the issues which one may encounter when building such and using of such registers. I mean, we have heard about the usefulness of having reliable registers of higher education and research institutions, but also about the difficulties which relate to their construction. On the conceptual side, there are the issues of actually establishing which institutions should be covered by different registers. When one speaks only about tertiary education institutions, you can run into issues of universities which have campuses in different places than headquarters, even countries. Right? Some institutions, they change names, so there is an issue of time consistency. Some institutions may merge or may have spin-offs. The issues are even more pronounced when one goes broader and looks at the family of more research institutions, where you may even venture into the realm of private companies being engaged in research. So all these things have to be somehow taken into account when one builds such registers. Much work has been done. Many projects have been implemented for many different purposes. which is a little bit of an issue since currently we have a lot of information lying around, which very often is difficult to put together and link. So one of the big themes of the discussion was the interoperability of the registers. I mean, clearly there is kind of a holy grail of having one indicator, identifier, which would be assigned to an institution and that would be used by everyone. But that is probably, well, as I said, holy grail, difficult to or impossible to achieve. But there are many things which can be done, and the participants in the discussion have agreed on a number of steps which could be useful. One of them, for example, building kind of correspondence tables, which would help to link the different registers. Work on this is ongoing. Should pursue, and then the participants expressed interest in basically follow up on this and exchanging just after the panel. So I think this is a very tangible and positive result of the discussion. I mean, from my point of view, I think it's important and useful, and this was also mentioned in the discussion, to bring in the user perspective of this. Linking different data sets, not only in the area of tertiary education registers, has potential advantages and then can lead to great research, where one is labeled, for example, if we can link the work on registers of research institutions with the outcomes in terms of patents or publications, one can have more insights into innovation ecosystems, how they organize, how they work, how the knowledge is being transmitted, and there is a huge potential here. So I think as much as work is done in this direction, it's very useful. Another issue which comes to fore is the timeliness of the data. Data in some of the registers, often those which are related to official data, comes with a delay, 2 years or even more. So one would ideally want to know in more real time how the information is evolving and changing. And in this sense, the new technologies which we are having now more and more available, like using big data, internet data scraping, can help us go in this direction. But obviously, there the timeliness can come at the cost of reliability. So this is also something which needs to be taken into account. Now, moving to the second panel, which I attended, and which focused on science, scientific research, and journalism, and what are the potential impacts. I mean, there we had two presentations. In the first one, Markus Lemkuhl from Freie Universität of Berlin presented results of truly interdisciplinary research, which spans a number of areas and brings together a number of researchers. I mean, these research strands have clearly confirmed that the journalism interest in science has increased. So they are obviously close links, and there can be repercussions. And in their research, they try to test some of these repercussions. I think the results are quite striking. I mean, it is very rare that there would be high public attention somehow translated in widespread reporting in major newspapers linked to a specific scientific event. This happens very rarely. I think over 92% of scientific events are in German media exclusively covered by just one title. So very, very few of them are covered by more. But once this happens, there is quite a significant impact. I mean, those highly covered public scientific events are then also lead to follow up research and articles. So once you get some publicity, then this can snowball. Also, scientists which are highly visible in the media, they typically have a higher reputation. There has been very interesting research which was done also on the case of recent COVID-19 crisis. So there are these links, but they relate really to a very narrow niche within the overall research market, if you will. So if one is wondering whether the medialization of science has some potential negative implications, then the researchers believe that there is not such a huge danger. I mean, we should not worry that much about these mainstream media repercussions on research. My thoughts on this would be, I mean, this is a very kind of comforting finding, but another angles also relate to the other direction. I mean, how media reporting on research, how they basically spread the news, or for how they influence the positions and beliefs of the population. And this also links very much to the COVID-19, where we saw that uncertainty in messages which was sent by media to population on the research findings as regards vaccines, treatments to COVID, has led to a decrease in trust of public in science. On the other hand, the achievements of science and in terms of vaccines have worked in the other direction. So there is clearly a very close link and an important interactions between science and trust of population, which need to be paid attention to. And in this, obviously, also for other channels than just mass media play a role. In particular, the new channels, social media and communications. And this is also linked to the second presentation by Enrique Orduña-Malea, who was presenting a new and I must say very interesting and sophisticated methodology to explore how public, how communication in terms of press releases is reflected in basically the media space. So I think this is a very promising avenue to analyze the data, to link it basically to publications in journals, but also tweets or media activity in other channels. But as was mentioned by the authors themselves, since this is a new avenue, it's not easy to interpret this data. So one needs to be clearly aware of this and be careful about drawing conclusions too quickly. So let me stop here.
Very much, Alexander and Ted, for your reflections on that. It's very, very interesting. I will now give the word back to Ted as chair of ANID. Ted?
Thank you, Carter. Yes, so now we've reached the end of this conference. So there are some things that we have to do, of course. First of all, let me say that I've really enjoyed it. I'm happy with the format that we've chosen in close collaboration with the ARUS team and the ANID board. I think it really worked. What we have, what we thought would be a good approach. So in that sense, I'm really happy. I've seen very interesting conference with good presentations, interesting topics that are actually all spot on. So in that respect, I'm really happy with the way this has worked out. And then, of course, at the end of such a conference, there is a moment for thanking people for their contributions and their help. Let me start by the ARUS crew. It's been really a pleasure to work with you together, and I name more. Maria Teresa, Jens Peter, Irene, Louise, Christine, Jesper, and of course Carter himself. Been really great to working with you together. And as we've agreed upon, there will be a next chance for you to really do this in a live situation, because I'm sure you will even improve that one. Then a great hand, of course, for the ISCR crew. Andrew and his colleagues, although perhaps the colleagues were not so visible here, and Andrew was, at least in one of the sessions today. It's been a great pleasure working with you together, and thanks a lot for all of your support in organizing the conference. Then the Meet You crew. Personally, I've been dealing mostly with Viara, but other people have been involved as well. Even if I then do not name you personally, thank you very much for your support. It's been great to have you here and to help us organize this conference. And finally, from the ANET board, I would like to thank Gunnar and Sibylle as partners in crime from the board helping out in organizing the conference, and Emanuela Reale for always critical contributions to constructive critical contributions to keeping us on track. Then normally in a live situation, we would organize accompanying the conference, the ANET board and the ANET General Assembly. Given the busy periods and the hectic times, we've decided to decouple that from the conference itself. So the ANET board meeting preparing for the General Assembly will be held on October 1st, and then the General Assembly will be held on the 15th of October this year. So you know this is going to take place, so you will all get invited for these meetings whenever that's applicable to you. And then from here, actually, it's my honor to give the floor to the next speaker, the Vice President of Research and of the University of Granada, Enrique Herrera-Viedma, who will introduce you to the next location of the STI conference. Floor is yours, Enrique.
Thank you for your introduction. I want to express my gratitude to give Granada University the opportunity to organize the next conference, ST Innovation Indicator, in the year 2022. I want to say that we think the possibility to celebrate the meeting in September, in the days between 7 and 9. This is a good time here. We have a very good weather during September. Normally, every year, you will have the opportunity not only to work in this conference, you have the opportunity to enjoy in our city, because I say you, the weather is nice. The following, yes. As you say, Granada is very beautiful day. When I say you, in September, similar month is possible to enjoy in Granada. Granada is the last Moorish kingdom in Spain. It's very famous in the world. Receive a lot of people from the many different countries. The tourist activity is very important in the city because it's a city with the full life and culture, and we had a lot of activity, a lot of opportunity to enjoy in the city, in the mountain, on the sea. All it's possible to practice different activity close to the city, and this is a good opportunity to know very well Granada. But inside to the city, we had our university, because the university has a lot of different campus through the city. Granada University is a general university. We have a lot of different degree in our teaching related to medicine, mathematics, computer science, lawyers, sociology, architecture, everything. In particular, study about to the innovation and to the bibliometric study of the science. Okay. Any information about to Granada University is that Granada University is the one of the important older university in Spain, more than 500 years old of the story. Normally, every year we receive around more than 50,000 students. Granada University is a university that receives the attention of the many international students and international professors. Every year we receive around 500 international students that they come here to study in our degree, in our master. I want to say that the next conference that we organize in Granada, the idea is to focus on the following topic. The title of the conference will be From the Global Indicator to the Local Application. You know that the STI conference in 2018 was focused on the indicator in transition. The following was focused on the broader indicator. and in the 2020 we focus on the global and local demands. At this moment, we thought that we thinking that is the opportunity to open to study the challenge about to the global indicator to the local application. We think to celebrate the meeting in our faculty of communication and documentation. This is the location of this faculty is the historical building inside to Granada. Is on the top position on the city. It's a special building with a special historical library, and I show you in the picture. One important is that inside to the faculty we had very important and relevant research group about to the science analysis. In fact, our faculty is the second Spanish institution according to the contribution in the field of the scientometry and research evaluation. And for us, I say you a pleasure to have this opportunity to organize the conference. I want to say all people that you are welcome to Granada. I hope to see you in the year 2020. It's a pleasure for us again, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to organize this important conference in Granada.
Thank you very much, Enrique. It looks great. We'll all be very much looking forward to it next year. Now it's my turn to thank everyone for joining in and participating and for helping out. We're very grateful for the collaboration with ICSR and also the team at Meet You and the AIDED board with Ted and Gunnar and Sibyl all across the way. I also like to thank our team as well for all their efforts to help out with this. So it's been great to work together and great to have your help. Thanks also to all the chairs and speakers for their efforts, making some very interesting sessions. I'm also happy with the way things worked out. It's been a pleasure overall for us to have the opportunity to organize STI 2021. As Ted said, we would have liked to have done this physically. We'd welcome the opportunity at some later date to give it a go and invite you all to Aarhus. This has been a learning experience for us, so we welcome any feedback that you have on how this format went and what you think of it, both in terms of the topic and the setup. So please, any comments or comments are more than welcome. Aside from that, we'd hope definitely that we can see you again, preferably in person in the near future. After this, we'll be having a social hour for anyone that wants to come in and say goodbye or provide their reflections or impressions of the day or how the whole conference went. Please join us. We'll also have a short presentation of the excellent mapping tool that will be shown for us by Robin. Robin will be making a presentation there. Other than that, I'd just like this opportunity to thank you again very much, and I hope to see you all again soon. Take care.